Your thoughts become your actions, and then your actions become who you are, right? So behavior is the determinant of everything, right? So you put three people group in the same house, experience the exact same things, and you'll get three different people. And it's because of the way they reacted behaviorally to those stimuli, right? Everything is a stimuli, and then everything is a response to their stimuli, right?
What's up, people? Welcome to this episode of the Buy the Hood podcast or webcast, because I don't know how you're consuming this content. I'm your host as always. My name is Jimmy, and as we start off every show, that is with gratitude. I want to say thank you to all the members from MDC Strategy. That is our membership group. Shout out to all the students from Buy the Hood University, as well as the youth from the Buy the Hood Ownership Camp. We appreciate all you guys for the support and energy you give our way. But I got my brother Corey. What's up, good brother?
It's really good, Jim, man. Every day above ground is a good day, so I'm not going to complain about much.
Yeah, man. Just want to do another quick podcast, get on and talk with you about some issues. As our new podcast is set up, we come on and we talk about issues pertaining to finance, black wealth, and then everything in between. This specific topic I want to talk about is interesting, right? So it comes from an article, and I read articles every day. So that's why a lot of our podcasts you guys will see will come from different articles and us giving our opinion on things that we find in the various articles. But make sure you leave us feedback though, because we did get feedback from a lot of the people that listen to audio podcasts. They send us feedback, let us know what they think about the various topics. Some topics resonate more than others, but I'm anxious to see what you guys think about this. And this is somewhat about the FIRE movement, but not really necessarily specifically about the FIRE movement. With that being said, Cora, let's get it popping. Let me start with this article here. And by the way, for those that are watching the video on YouTube or Facebook, and if you are watching on YouTube or Facebook, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to the audio, I'll read a lot of the article to you so you have an idea of what it is we're talking about. But you can also subscribe to our YouTube or Facebook whenever you get a chance. We're trying to get our YouTube channel popping, so please make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. But with that being said, this is an article from Fortune magazine written by Chloe Berger. It came out in June 25th. We're now at the end of July, but I still thought it was interesting, right? So this is about a couple who retired with $4.3 million, and they did so by practicing the FIRE lifestyle. And for those who don't know what the FIRE lifestyle is, financially independent, retire early. There's a whole documentary. It's a lifestyle. You can Google it, go to YouTube, find information about it. So there's a lot about the FIRE lifestyle. But what I found interesting about this specific article is they've hit $4.3 million. And what it says is, we don't want to just keep throwing money on the pile and keep being cheap. So this is kind of about balance, but even more than that, it's about the psychology of money, right? So I'll read a little bit. It says, pinching pennies can get tiring after a while. Just ask Mindy and Carl, early 50-something couple who joined the FIRE movement 6 years ago and now 4.3 million saved. And they got this from part of a podcast with Ramit Sethi, who has I'll Teach You to Be Rich. He has a show on Netflix, but he also wrote the book. And they were on his podcast and they were having this conversation. But now, quoting the couple, Mindy says, we don't want to just keep throwing money on the pile and keep being cheap. I do look at everything based on how much it costs, and I don't need to. I shouldn't. So she and Carl recalled a time when they were out to breakfast and their daughter brought the most expensive item on the menu, which was $20, resulting in a $99 bill with a tip. Not a big dent. They have millions, remember, but something that amounted to a lot of financial anxiety for them nonetheless. So stop right here reading the article. The bottom line is they've been able to achieve what most people are not able to achieve in terms of becoming millionaires, retiring, and building up a nest egg. But now that frugality is weighing on them to the point where it's causing financial anxiety, and it's becoming a problem. So now going back to the article, their attitude toward money is a byproduct of what Carl says is a scarcity mentality he developed growing up, as well as the years they've spent saving to become financially independent, a lifestyle that typically involves intense budgeting to eliminate debt and prioritize savings. So they give an example of a six-figure Manhattan lawyer who lived off rice and beans just so he could retire early. That's a bit extreme, but this is what some people in the movement do. Mindy and Carl focused on flipping real estate to get where they are today. Help them sock away $10,000 in savings, accumulate $925,000 in assets, and earn $4.2 million in investments. They also have debt, which is about $900,000 in real estate, but they've achieved financial independence. But they also feel paralyzed with fear of spending money they worked so hard to save. And here's the last part I'll read from the article. It says, we've identified that we probably live suboptimally, right? If something truly makes you happy, you should spend money on it, all right? And that actually comes from a lot of what he teaches, right? So I want to talk about that too. Shout out to Ramit Sethi and his whole movement of Teach You to Be Rich, because I have read the book and I have watched the Netflix series. And one of the things that he talks about in his strategy is finding things that making you happy and spending money there, right? But this is just an interesting conversation about financial anxiety, because a lot of times when we talk about financial anxiety, Core, we talk about it from the standpoint of those that don't have, right? We rarely have this conversation with those that have been able to save and accumulate, and they still have that financial. It's akin to I hate to use this analogy, but it's true though. I've seen it where people lose weight, but they still their mentality, they still have that mentality of being a bigger person, and it weighs on them. They still have that anxiety. So when reading this article, I know you read the article, what did you think about their specific situation and the idea of financial anxiety from somebody who has millions?
I get it. I just don't get it. Like, so I get it from the standpoint of it's hard because you build those habits, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fire lifestyle is a habit. It's a lifestyle, literally. So I get that part. You know, being into a psychological field, I get the part where it's hard to break those habits. What I don't get is if you are so unhappy, then there's like, my thing is, you're not doing away with your budget, just change it. Like the way we teach budgeting is to just put it in your budget.
Yeah.
So it's not, because your budget is not there to restrict you or constrict you. It's there so that you know what's going in and what's coming out. So my thing is, instead of saving 40% of everything, save 25%.
So
and then you can spend whatever you have within those constraints as loosely as you want to.
So I've studied the FIRE movement, right? Because I find it interesting. First of all, I want to also shout out our brother Don Johnson, because Don has a FIRE group for Black folks on Facebook. It's like 1,500 people in there. They're all people that look like us who are practicing FIRE. So, and I love being in there, just getting information and seeing how people think. It's a beautiful thing. It's one of my favorite groups.
Listen, I am not against the FIRE movement, because I like the discipline.
But let me say this though. There are extremes of this, because I've read books on people that practice FIRE. I've watched a documentary and I've watched a lot of YouTube videos. There was a book I read. It's called The Frugal Woods. You guys can go look that up if you want to. We always talk about books, but it's called The Frugal Woods. And it was about a couple that practiced the FIRE movement and was able to retire early. And some of the habits and things they did, it's like, bro, I would never live that way. They were like reusing paper towels, and like they took being frugal to the extreme, where it's not even frugal anymore. They call themselves the Frugal Woods. I call them something else, but it goes beyond that. Now, again, lifestyle design is a real thing. So
yeah,
that's how you want to be. That's how you want to be.
My thing is, if they're comfortable in it, God bless them.
Yo, it made me uncomfortable reading it. And they wrote a book about it too. So you can look it up. It's called The Frugal Woods. But that's the extreme. But what I like about FIRE is that the more I study it, and the more and more I study it. And it's interesting because I'm going to FinCon this year. So I'll be in FinCon, and I know it's a lot of FIRE folks there. So I like to pick their brain. But there are different versions of FIRE. You got this extreme thing, financially independent, retire. But some people never want to retire because they enjoy what they do, right? So there's like slow FIRE. There's all different types of FIRE that exist now. But what they're talking about in this specific article is that scarcity mentality that you start to have when you're just focused on the end goal, and now you don't know how to cut it off. You just don't know how to cut it off. You don't even know how to live. And now that's crazy to say, because one of the things that we talk about often is happiness. And imagine having 4.3 million, but you've put yourself in a position where you just, like he said, they live suboptimally. they're not happy.
So again, that's back to what I was saying. Like for me, it's about, just rearranging your budget, right? You don't have to not be fired. You just have to just rearrange your budget so that you can, because the budget is the basis, right? You still need the budget because you don't want to be out here like most people who don't have a budget at all. You just have to rearrange the budget you have to open up some dollars to do whatever you want to do, right? And then you could spend as frugally as you want within those dollars, right? So if say you were saving, they had $10,000 saved and they got all these assets or whatever, instead of saving $1,000 a month, they save $700 a month or $800 a month and free up, another 30-40% for them to spend.
Yeah.
Now you still can do your fire thing. You still not denting your legacy, and you opened up whatever you want, whatever. And if it's not something you want to do that month, you still opened up that money to do it in the following month. You see what I'm saying? Like, so for me,
so I get what you're saying, but I guess like from reading the article, and I actually listened to the podcast too, and so I got a little bit more information. But from listening to it, it's not that they don't know what to do.
It's very hard to do it.
Yeah, it's like telling someone.
It's like knowing how to shoot a free throw, but actually having to go to the free throw line.
It's like telling someone addicted to drugs, like, yo, just stop. That don't work.
Wean yourself off those drugs.
Yeah, yeah. So that part though doesn't work. But I think that's one of the more interesting things about finance is behavioral finance.
Yeah, behavior. Well, I mean, behavior is the determiner for everything.
Yeah.
All right. Like people.
When you say that everything, what do you mean everything? And explain that.
So behavior is determinant of everything, right? So what happens is that things happen, and then how you react to those things is what happens, right? So your thoughts become your actions, and then your actions become who you are, right? So behavior is the determinant of everything, right? So you put three people, grew up in the same house, experience the exact same things, and you'll get three different people, and it's because of the way they reacted behaviorally to those stimuli, right? Everything is a stimuli, and then everything is a response to their stimuli, right? So behavior is the root cause for every single thing, right? Reaction to stimuli. So you have to, for me, either the stimuli can make you do. See, I've literally written a book about this, which I have not published, but you have to create an environment where if you want to change habits, you got to change environment, right? And so you got to change the environment that you're in. And it's something in that environment that's triggering them, that's now not allowing them to not move off that lifestyle because my thing is there's different stages of that lifestyle, right? There's the height of that lifestyle where you're actually beginning the process and you're into it hardcore, and now they've reached the end point of that process where they've achieved everything where they wanted to achieve, and now they don't know how to come back down the ladder. It's like they climbed up the ladder and then they don't know how to come back down the ladder, or they looking down while they climbing the ladder and they're scared to come back down. And so what I'm saying is there's a middle ground, right? There's a way for them to keep keep the habits without feeling like they don't have the emotional wherewithal to totally spend freely. So your emotions drive everything. Like most people's problem with money is emotional. It's not that they can't. Like most people know they emotionally can't function well enough to do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, discipline. Right? Discipline is everything. I think
that discipline is an emotion. That's what most people won't tell you, that discipline is an emotion, right? Discipline is the emotion of getting over your emotions. Like no matter what's going on in my life and in my lifestyle, I'm going to get up and do it anyway. And that's called emotional control. You see what I'm saying? So most people won't tell you that. Again, I'm not going to get into this because I'm not a licensed psychologist or psychiatrist. and I'm not a social worker, but like I said, I got 20 plus years of experience with modifying behavior, and what I'll tell you about modifying behavior is that most people don't even recognize that it's an emotion that's controlling whatever they're doing.
No, and I appreciate that breakdown because, and I'm gonna say this too. This is not medical advice, nor is it financial advice.
Or financial advice. Which is why I gave you that.
We're just having a conversation though, but I appreciate that breakdown because I think that when you start to talk about finance, one of the things that I've learned in my 25 plus years working in the space in various capacities is that it's probably 95% mental in some form, some shape or form, and 5% strategy. Because it's another book out there that I read a while ago.
I don't even think it's that. I think it's 100% mental, because you can use any strategy if you mentally ready to go through the process.
Not to play semantics,
literally any strategy.
Semantics, but if
people succeed with all kinds of weird strategies.
No,
because they're willing to do whatever they got to do to get to wherever their endpoint is.
All right, so what I'm saying is, if that's the case, it still can't be 100% then, because you got to have some sort of strategy.
Okay, like 99 and 1.
I mean, I'm a data guy. You can't do that to me. Pause. But listen, though. The reason I know that is because I read another book a while ago. It's called, it's about the index card. It's called The Index Card. Somebody knows what I'm talking about. Let me see. The Index Card. Why Personal Finance Doesn't Have to Be Complicated. I just looked it up on my Kindle. Why Personal Finance Doesn't Have to Be Complicated, the index card. And the point of the author was, I could tell you everything you need to know about personal finance on an index card. And they wrote it on the index card. And they're saying, take this index card. This is all you ever have to know. And but the part that's missing from that
is the emotional control that it takes
on
the index card.
And it's things on there such as, like, if you have a retirement account at work, like, max that out, get insurance. Like, it's just basic things. And it was like, that's all you really need to know. But the part that you can't get this amount on the index card is really the hard part, which is the mental part. And that mental part of finance is tricky, because in this specific case that led to this conversation, they figured out mentally how to save, but now they didn't even figure out mentally how to live. And that's just an interesting thing to think.
That's rough.
That's rough, bro. That's rough, bro. Imagine 4.3 million, but your brain, because again, it's a psychology. Your brain just won't allow you to enjoy it.
Listen, man, I know a lot of miserable behind rich people. I know a lot of miserable rich people.
That, what you just said right there, is so crazy. I just talked to a dude. This is an Asian brother, by the way. And he owned over 100 rental properties, right? So, and that was always his goal, was to hit 100. He cracked 100, went past 100. Asian dude in Philly. And he was like, yo, I am miserable. I hate this. He said, I absolutely hate this. He said, I hate being a landlord. He said, people tell me to hire a property manager. He said, but now I got to manage them. He said, I absolutely hate this. And it was like eye-opening, because everybody has these specific goals they think in their head of, I want to get to X amount of dollars and this amount of things. But the idea of happiness in between that.
So basically, this should be titled, what happens when you achieve your dream? What's next? You know what I mean? Because basically what's happening is they've achieved their dream.
Yeah. And
now they're like, all right, we got where we were supposed to go. What next? Like, they didn't fully flush it out. Like, all right, once we achieve what we achieved, like, what do we do next after we've achieved what we set out to achieve, right? And that happens for a lot of people. It doesn't have anything to do with money.
I just saw a post on IG from Ash Cash, who's been on our podcast before. And he was talking about, I think he said 2022 or 2021. Don't quote me because I don't know the exact year. He said whatever year it was his best year in business. He made X amount of millions of dollars in that 1 year. And he said when it happened, he was damn near depressed. He said because
he had achieved everything he wanted to achieve.
Well, he said that it was the feeling of, in his head, once I do this, I'll be fine. He said, but then he did it, and then life was still the same way it was before he did it. And it started making him think about, like, what's his purpose, or like what makes me happy, because that didn't do it. You know what I mean? It's like wanting something, getting it. It's almost like, you ever see when you were a young boy, or even your old head, or maybe a pair of sneaks or something that you want, and you save for it and you get it, and then you get it, and it's like
nothing in your life changed except
you like,
yeah, you got whatever you wanted.
Yeah,
I'm gonna tell you why that really happens to me.
You don't want nothing?
No, it's not that I don't want nothing. I'm ambitious as hell. is that I know the difference between comfort and satisfaction, right? I'm comfortable getting the things that I want, but I'm never satisfied, right? So I got air conditioning, I got a nice house, I got my kids, my family, got enough money to do almost exactly whatever I want to do. I'm comfortable, but I'm not satisfied with where I'm at. Like there's always things for me to achieve for myself and my family in business and life with my children. And so I'm not satisfied. Right.
Yeah.
So there's a difference between being comfortable and satisfied. People say don't get comfortable. I say get as comfortable as you could possibly be. It's a difference between comfort and satisfaction. Right. So I'm comfortable, but I'm not satisfied. Right. And so the reason why I'm able to operate at a high level on a lot of things is because I am so comfortable. Right. I made my life to be where that's the same thing with a lot of the people that I know that are very successful. They made their life comfortable so that they could be as successful as they wanted to be, but they're not satisfied with whatever their station and position is, and they're always working to do more, right?
So I get that.
Right, so it's like with Warren Buffett, right? Warren Buffett has X billions of dollars, but his goal can never be satisfied, which is to give it all back.
Yeah,
you see what I'm saying? Like, so he has a goal that cannot be satisfied, right? So for those people, I think their goals aren't big enough, right? For me, that's how I would perceive it. It might not necessarily be true,
but I don't even know if it's a goal big enough. What he was talking about is like hitting your goal, right? But like the bigger goal that is something that he doesn't desire. Like he never desires.
He wants to be. But my thing is,
so I'm gonna give you an example, right? So for me, I don't struggle with this thing per se because something that my grandmother used to tell me as a kid that, and rest in power to my grandma, rest in power to your grandma. We always talk about how our grandmoms gave us the game, but she told me, in life, there's always going to be people that have more, and there's always going to be people that have less. So learn to be happy with whatever it is that you have.
Whatever it is you have. So I heard a version of that.
Yeah, she used to always say that to me when I was younger, and it resonates with me because once I realized that, and I realized that I have enough, right? Not that I'm not ambitious the same way you are, but I'm satisfied with what I have. And also I've learned to, and this comes from like studying minimalism, right? So I used to tell you all the time, like I'm a struggling minimalist, but I like reading about minimalism and everything because one of the tenets of minimalism is hold on to things that actually make you happy. So I joke with our friends all the time, like, yo, I don't care about clothes. I don't care about cars. I just like first class travel and I like gadgets, right? So I'll blow a bag. So I'll blow a bag on that because those are the things that make me happy. But again, I'm very conservative when it comes to other things. So I figured that out.
I've changed the things that make me happy. Right?
What I struggle with from a behavioral finance standpoint is a form of survivor's guilt. I do struggle with that, right? So like even when, and shout out to everybody who's in our MDC group, right? So we make money, we trade, we invest, we talk every day. Some days like I'll get on the market, run a play, and make a couple grand and really struggle with it. And I know that sounds absolutely insane for anybody listening, but the reason is because, I'm outside. I talk to people. I have family. I have friends who don't understand that skill set or what have you, and don't know just how fast it is to kind of like, not necessarily make money, but just figure out how to extract value out of the world, right? And also, I just so that actually bothers me at times. It's a form. It's a form of survivor's remorse where it's like I have knowledge, information, and ability that people I care about don't, and no matter how much I try to help them, they don't care to hear it either. So it's like, but I'm like, you know what I mean? So I do struggle with that, right? And I struggle with it when I see as much poverty as I see in our communities. It bothers me. So
I don't struggle with guilt. That's
listen, I respect you, bro. I'm just being honest.
No, I'm just saying because like I've learned not to feel guilty. I struggle with a lot of things, but guilt is not one of those things. Right?
Yeah, I do struggle with a form of survivor's guilt because it's like I want everybody to get it. I want everybody to get to it. I know. So statistically speaking, it's guilt.
Like for me, I have a saying again that I got from my grandmother. Said if it can be fixed with action, then it's not a problem.
That's a bar.
It's not a problem. That just means whatever, you're not taking the right actions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anything that can be fixed with action is not actually a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I try to get active.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's my thing. Right.
Yeah.
So I don't have the guilt anymore, because if I'm taking the action and you're not taking action,
yeah,
for me personally, I don't feel any guilt. I don't feel any guilt for anybody who does not take action. Like, that's just how I feel. Now,
yeah, no, I get it. Because again, I'm on the other side of that. I actually do, because sometimes I know people don't have the information, knowledge, they don't know.
But what I'm saying to you is, once they have information, like, so we do a lot of teaching. We do a remarkable amount of teaching, and we do a lot of teaching for free.
Yep. Most of it's for free, but yeah.
95% or more of it is for free.
Yes.
And so I don't feel guilty. Like, it's the reason I'm a teacher. Is the reason why I chose teaching as a profession. Like, I wanted to get all the guilt out. Like, I felt guilty about a lot of things. I chose teaching as a profession really as a way to cleanse my soul, right? Because if I'm giving you the information, if you don't take action on it, I feel relieved of guilt. That is how my experience is set up for me.
I mean, right? The thing is,
because of that. My grandmother she had all the answers. Like I used to dream about my grandmother every single night, because she had all the answers. Like, when I would go to her with a problem, she literally had the answer. Like, you ever had somebody in your life, they got literally all the answers? Like,
my grandmother. Yeah,
all the answers, right?
So I get it.
Like, I was struggling. Like, I was going through a period where, like, I was good at sports. I had good grades. I was part of all these organizations, but I just didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. Like, I just felt alone, because I grew up in a neighborhood where everybody was poor. Nobody else had my same experiences, right? So everybody was destitute poor. I grew up poor in a destitute poor neighborhood, or I would say lower middle class people were destitute poor where I grew up. And so, when she gave me that little nugget, she was like, look, man, if it can be solved with action, is not a problem. What can you do? What did you do? And if you don't know, then now you know what you got to do. The action is to get education.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now, if you don't know, the action is to get education. And then if once you have education, now it's your job to act on the education. So that's why, I always change.
But no, listen, I appreciate that. But one of the things that I recognize just from my day-to-day life is everybody don't have the education as it pertains. So finance is such a big part of everybody's life.
It is.
And sometimes we get caught in our bubble where the people that we talk to, because we have our group, every day we talking to some of the brightest folks, right? People that, run algorithms, they're trading, they're investing, they're buying property, they're buying land. So these are the people that we associate ourselves with. But when you get out of that bubble, you realize that people really don't. I had a conversation this week with a medical professional. I'm not going to say their name, but they're someone who runs their own practice, has a lot of money, and they had no clue about some very simple things. Which led me to a whole different can of worms. And we'll talk about this in a future episode, but I looked it up. Did you realize that some of the, it's a stereotype, but it's actually data to prove that people in the medical profession, doctors, nurses at the highest level, they're the worst people with money?
I can see why they would be the worst people.
So there's actually studies of that, but I had the actual experience that made me look it up, because everything always comes back to data. So I went and looked it up, and there's there's written studies about medical professionals and their ability to handle finances. My point is, these are educated people. Dave Ramsey did a study of millionaires, right? In the top 5 professions of millionaires, I think number 1 was engineer. What was number 2? Number 1 was engineer. I know in the top 5 were engineer, teacher, lawyer, manager, and accountant. Accountant was number 2. So engineer was number 1, accountant was number 2, teacher was number 3, number 4 was a manager, middle manager, and number 5 was an attorney. They were the top 5 professions of millionaires. And the craziest part about that is when they looked at the teachers, and again, this goes back to the whole behavioral thing. Teachers were so high, and they said the median salary of the teachers that became millionaires was like 61K. They never made 100K, and they still were able to become millionaires because they were the best at managing what they had. Kind of because they had no choice to, but they figured it out. That's another study, right? So there's a study, but there's other studies about doctors. So when I was looking at that one, I'm like, well, damn, doctors make all the money. They're not up here. And one of the things it says in there is that because they make all the money, they spend all the money. You know what I mean? When you got big bags coming to you every 2 weeks, every month, you're like, go buy it.
You know your skill is going to keep consistently bringing in that money.
Yeah.
Like, you can be it's like athletes.
But I bring that up, right? I bring that up because a lot of times it's not that they're not taking action. A lot of times they don't have the information. And sometimes these are folks that are educated. It's not that I'm talking about people that just have no education. Sometimes are highly educated folks, but they specialize in something.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So they don't have all the knowledge. But what I'm saying is I struggle at times because it's like, yo, to me, money is plentiful. And I know that sounds crazy, but you talk with this article that started this whole conversation to talk about the scarcity thing. To me, money is plentiful. I feel like there are days I go where I don't, go out in the market and do anything. I'm just working on my real estate data all day long. But if I feel like waking up in the morning, I can get up in the morning and go get a bag whenever I feel it. I really feel that way.
But that's because we had years of practice.
No, absolutely. I've been in the gym. I get it.
So the thing for me, listening to this, right, is something I go back to Jalil Kinsey. He said when we interviewed him, and this is always stuck, he said lifestyle design is more important than anything. You know what I mean? Like lifestyle design is everything. Yeah. Like what do you desire? What is your lifestyle designed to do? You know what I mean? Like over he said lifestyle design over designer lifestyle.
Hey. Shout to Jalil. That was far. But
the
thing is, he's lived that because I've seen him own a bunch of stuff and sell it off to go into a whole other space where he's still successful. But he was like, "Yo, that just wasn't for me." Like, and meant
he's
it.
Like he does it, and he said something about shiny object syndrome.
Yeah,
and that was the thing with him. He was like, "Look, lifestyle design over designer lifestyle," and I was like, "Damn, that's hard. That's hard body."
Because again, that's about figuring out what works for you and also what makes you happy, right? That's why I never engage. I never engage in that debate because there's that constant debate like everybody got to buy a house and people like you don't, and it's the math and all this. I'm like, yo, what makes someone happy? Some people are perfectly fine renting. I know the data says that if you own a home, you have a higher net worth. I get that, but what if I have no desire to own?
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like
I don't want to get caught up in the whole.
And people get mad at me because I'm a licensed agent telling folks like, yo, it may not be best for you.
Whatever makes you happy.
Exactly. Like that lifestyle design piece is interesting. So for everybody watching and listening, I want to know a couple of things. I want to know, is there anything that you struggle with mentally when it comes to personal finance? Right. For me, it's the first off, the article that led to this is that that scarcity mentality, even after you've accomplished your goals, they've built a multi-million dollars in assets. They're living what most people never accomplish, but they still are struggling because they're dealing with that idea of scarcity. For me personally, it's like a form of survivor's guilt, I would call it. I definitely do struggle with that. Something I'm working on trying to get better at it.
I found out a way to release that.
So let me ask you, Corey, since we're being transparent with our audience, what is something you struggle with in personal finance?
I struggle with a lot of things in personal finance because I don't. I don't respect money. I don't respect it, and so I'll probably never have as much as I should.
Because you feel you take too many risks.
No, it's a tool.
No, I get that. So what I'm saying, when you say you don't respect it, I mean, what I hear when you say that is you're willing to take.
It's not that I don't take any unnecessary risk. Every risk I take is calculated out. Right. So it's not that I will take uncalculated risk or whatever, but I just don't have the same value system with money that most people have. Right. I care about it to the point where I want to be able to use it as a tool to help the people in my life do whatever they want to do. Right. So I've started to respect money more that I've learned more about money. But for me, always growing up, I always had enough because whatever I wanted, I went and got it. You know what I mean? Like, so I never respected money enough to get enough of it to do the majorest of major things, right? Like, I struggle with giving my money to banks. I struggle with a lot of things that go on in our system because I know they exist. Like, my mom was was an accountant. So the reason why I don't trust banks is not because I didn't know anything about them, it's because I knew too much about them. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, so I struggled for a whole different reason than most people struggle. And so my biggest struggles come with not respecting money at the highest levels enough, right?
What I hear though,
again, I'm building a greater respect for the power.
So what I hear, Core, what I hear is you don't respect the system, not necessarily money. You don't respect the system of how things work in this country. So you just kind of like rebel against it.
Yeah, like it's just like I feel like I used to have this I guess moral system, right? And then I realized that morality is for poor people. What? And so listen. Think about how our system is set up.
I back up there saying morality is what you gotta explain that, bro. You can't just let that out there. Morality is
listen. I'm about to explain it. Think about when you get a ticket, right?
Yes.
Let's say you get a ticket for $100 and you make $1,000 a month, mm-hmm. Right? You drive a car, you get $100 ticket, right? You're probably not going to do that again, right? Mm-hmm. But if you're a person who makes $1 million and you're driving around and you get $100 ticket, what's the chances you're going to do it again?
You're going to keep going.
Very high, right? So again, when I say morality is for poor people, our country is set up to punish people who are poor. I'm not saying that.
No, I kind of had that same thought, but I never looked at it as being morality. I looked at it as
I'm just saying because if you look at the way our country punishes it with money, right, and time. The two things that people with money have. Most of the time, people with money have time, right? And so when our country punishes people, our morality is really more based upon how much money you have than really actually what you did, right? As you notice, the people who create more money and make more money get more leeway, right? They're able, people's morality change, right? Because we know people who have done absolutely heinous things that make great anything, right? Anybody who has any kind of special talent is allowed to do all kinds of crazy stuff, right? We've seen it, right? We've seen it with Robert Kelly, right? He was allowed to do what he was allowed to do for like 30 years because he had special talent, right? Is morality is really for poor people, right? We watch the richest companies in our country just absolutely manhandle people and get $100 million and $100 billion fines. Right? Mm-hmm. We watch Monsanto kill thousands of people, and we watch they killed the Indians on the reservations like 5 years ago when they was trying to run the pipeline through. Right? So
I get what you're saying.
Morality is more based. Like what I'm saying is morality is really about money, right? Morality is for poor people.
So hold on, let me say something. I don't know if I agree with that. Like said that way. I get what you're saying, but I always looked at it different. I looked at it as like, the country's not built for poor people, and I looked at it as being time. Like I got more time.
The only time morals are brought up is when you're talking about somebody who doesn't have.
You don't think it's possible to have morals? So you think there's no person that has resources that also has?
What I'm saying is their morality. I think those people who are altruistic with a lot of money are the really altruistic people because they got to get out of whatever they want free pays. Because the way this country is set up, like the reason why Americans get in trouble when they go to other countries because other countries have moral clauses that we don't have here.
No, I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying. I'm just talking about the idea of morals, right? So that leads to a discussion of what morals are. Because you know, and some would say that if you do have resources, you're hoarding resources. So just by that definition, you can't be moral.
Morality
right?
is off by that. I'm not saying that
I'm
personally.
not saying that either, but I get that viewpoint. But what I'm saying is the what you're talking about. I guess I don't consider those things morals, right? It reminds me of that Cameron verse when he'd be like,
is killing legal or illegal?
You say what?
Is killing people legal or illegal?
It depends. Are you killing for your country? Are you killing for your country? Or are you killing for yourself?
Exactly. But that's what I'm saying. But the people who got the money send those soldiers out the war to kill people, right?
So listen. What I'm saying is that Cameron verse where he say you parked in the throwaway zone. And he'd be like, man, that car throwaway homes. Like, listen, I got so many resources that I'll park here.
Your morality doesn't affect me because I got so many resources. I don't care about that.
Yeah, but I get that, but I don't know if that's morality or
it is.
So because what you're talking about are breaking rules, right? Certain rules. But I guess for me, I guess it depends upon how you define morals, right? Because people define morals different ways. Some things people do, they say that's morally wrong, and I'm like, oh, it's not. So morals could be subjective, I guess.
So, but they get more subjective the more you got. That's the point that I'm trying to make. It's more subjective. The rules get more stringent the less you have.
So the definition of morals, just you know, so a lesson, especially one concerning what is right or prudent, that can be derived from a story, a piece of information, or an experience. Another definition is a person's standards of behavior or beliefs concerning what is not acceptable for them to do.
So right? the Bible, the Quran, and all of those books are books about morals, right? Mm-hmm. And all of those books about morals, they outline what's wrong and what's right, right? By any of those books, whatever standard you measure morality by, right? By the law, whatever morality, like, because we already know that sometimes what's in the law is not always what's right, what's morally right. Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying is, by whatever standard of morality, killing people is wrong. Stealing is wrong, right? And you can't read a religious text that does except for when X person does it. It's wrong except for when X person does it, or it's wrong except for when it's wrong. Period.
So this reminds me of the thing that I use when we teach our real estate valuation class. I always started off with a quote from Chris Rock, like, in life there's math, but everything else is debatable.
Everything else.
So when you talk about that, is stealing wrong? Is this wrong? Like, if you're stealing,
if you're hungry and your family needs to eat, is it wrong to steal? Right.
That's why I said morals. I guess morals are subjective, and you saying that morals are more subjective the more resources you have.
Yes, I am 100% saying that.
At this point, bro, I don't even remember how we got to this part of the conversation.
Because we were talking about mentality.
Things you struggle with. Things
I struggle with, right? And so
what I was saying is you don't believe in the actual system. You're saying the reason you don't believe in the system is because that you can operate different depending upon your resources. So you think the whole system stinks.
I mean, I don't believe anything about this system is built for poor people or black people. So there's nothing in this system that is actually built for us. Yeah. We're allowed to maneuver within whatever is built, but it's not built for us.
Absolutely.
So I don't believe anything about this system is built for black people.
And I gotta show you this too, bro, because I've been in the lab. You told me to do this, so I did it. So I've been in the lab. I got in the lab.
You read that, yeah, man. It'll take you on a ride, bro.
For those that are listening, I'm showing Corey that a book that he's been telling me to start for a long time. I finally got into it, which is Yorugu. So I'm reading Yorugu now. I'm just letting you know I got into the book. So
yeah, man, it'll guide your life in the whole.
So I hear some of that. I hear some of what I'm reading in your thoughts. That's what made me think about that. Right. So yeah, I get it. I get it. Anyway, man, with that being said, though, it's been a great conversation. All our conversations are great, man. But we
actually had a phone conversation on a pod.
Yeah, how about that? So, what I was asking is, what do you struggle with? For everybody listening,
financially,
yeah,
like what I struggle. Like I said, I struggle. I struggle to respect. I struggle to respect money. Like just the whole system. I struggle to respect it.
Yeah, right? I get it.
And so that's why me personally is.
So you think because yeah, so because of that, it slows down your ability to build as big as you can build because you don't respect.
Yeah, because I have the information. and I have the resources because I have people around me that would do things for me to help me build those resources at a much faster, larger pace. So I'm not struggling with information or resources. I'm struggling with the actual physical resources though, because sometimes, like, I'm one of them people who I can work with people I don't like, but I don't choose to work with people I don't like. Like, if I'm forced to do something that will help somebody else, I'll work with almost anybody. Right. So, like, if I'm forced to do something that's going to help Black people or help my family or help somebody that's not me, I'll do it. But if it's just for me, I don't deal with nobody I like for anything just for me.
Understood. So for our listeners out there, for our watchers out there, what are something that you struggle with when it comes to personal finance? And also, like, what do you think about the specific article that we shared? I'll put a link to the article within the actual show notes as well as the description, so you can take a look at the article. But what is something that you struggle with, and what do you think about that? Them building up 4.3 million and still struggling. And also, what do you think about our conversation about morals? I'll be interested to get that feedback too. Morals are for poor people. I just think saying that is funny. You know, I already know by Conti about to cut that into a clip because that's just funny to hear. Morals are for poor people.
If I'm lying, tell me how I'm lying.
I respect that, bro. You know, I love getting your perspective.
Show me where I'm lying.
No, I love your perspective because you make me think about things, and that's something I'm going to sit and ponder about that idea because I think you're winning me on your side, but it just sounds so foul to say it that way. Sometimes it's hard to digest that way.
The truth always don't wear a pretty skirt, bro.
This is true. It's hard to digest just that saying, but I get what you're saying, though. Anyway, with that being said, everybody, listen, we appreciate your support as always. Make sure to give us feedback. Help us get our YouTube numbers up. We are trying to focus more on YouTube, but you see, them other sites, man, I'm falling out of love with social medias in general. But again, we still gonna put this content out there on YouTube. We love having these conversations, so we think YouTube is the platform that we're going to try to eventually build and continue this dialogue with. But we appreciate all the support nonetheless. Shout out to the students from our camp. This week is the final week of 2023's camp, and this has been one of my favorite camps.
If you want to support those students, send us a email send us something for them. You know what I mean? Like I said, 100% of the proceeds go to students. We don't keep none of that because that's not what we in it for.
Bro, half the money we make about it, we give away. Folks only knew this.
Not even half.
We are way more than that. We a nonprofit for profit.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Speaking of that, shout out to everybody who chills with us on Friday. We go live on every Friday on our YouTube and Facebook page, and we give away stuff then too. We give away memberships to the MDC. We give away Bitcoin. We give away cash. We give away groceries. We give away. That's what we do, and we give art to our people, man. But we appreciate y'all, and that's our way of showing it. Leave us some feedback. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think about all of our conversations today. But as we always say, it's not about how much money you make. It's about how much you keep. Game elevates, and we'll see you guys in our next episode. Peace.